So the primary reason for us, so there were several thinkings. One, we want to somehow mimic the real world, albeit a bit sped up, right? So the magic number, like Dirk said, was like 1 to 5. So if you expect an airplane ride from San Francisco to New York, it will take you about a fifth of the time in Upland to get there. But that friction is exactly what we were going for, to enable things like transportation with utility. And that leads me kind of like to the second reasoning, which is we wanted to strengthen the notions of what we call virtual localities in Upland. Because imagine, for example, Upland basically on its very base layer, it's a real estate platform, right? You can own land, you can cultivate it, you can build on top of it, you can build businesses and communities around it. But what is the kind of like the purpose of a local community if you can just magically teleport suddenly to New York and then interact with that? Like, you want to strengthen those localities to create special, communities around those, and then also give the participants the ability to create value. Because if I invest in my neighborhood, if I put lots of outdoor decor items and put parks and gardens and create meta ventures around them that gives both like a mix of cafes where people can socialize and the Walmarts of the world where streets would have lots of secondary resellers and car showrooms. If I go as a community member to invest in all of that, what is the purpose if somebody can magically teleport and then jump in on the community? So you want that friction to basically empower the notions of virtual localities. And in the future, we've already seen that. We have players from all over the world, but they basically identify themselves as Uplanders. So I live in San Francisco, even though maybe they're from Vietnam or maybe they're from Brazil, right? Or maybe they're actually in San Francisco. So that's the concept of virtual locality, which is very important for us. And then when everything cognitively makes sense, that's where things like transportation and cars are so intuitive and so easy to understand, right? Why would you want to spend resources moving from one place to another, right? Or why would you even want to travel in the first place? And I think it's a very good distinguisher. And I know, by the way, for a fact, we're very close with the guys from Linden Labs, the original creators of Second Life, which is the mother of all metaverses and digital economies. And they actually told us a lot. They used to think a lot about this because again, in Second Life, you can magically teleport from one place to another. And I think it's something they also went through the exercise. And I'm not sure that they are complete with the decision, and everybody else is. So. I think it's a very unique point of view, and I don't know if any of the Uplanders want to weigh in and kind of like tell from their experience whether or not it's frustrating or whether it makes sense.
So what you're saying is basically location. It still applies in the real world. We bring the traffic.
Exactly. I mean, when you're in the business of basically empowering communities through land ownership, right? You have to cast the context to it, right? And you don't want to, like, if somebody, again, I'm just thinking if a group of 100 people come together to develop a neighborhood in Upland, you want to make sure that they have the infrastructure to maintain that value and not have it like magically disappear because you don't have just a token. But it's not a token that you spend, you actually stake it in favor of construction. So currently, if you want to build a building on top of your property, you would need to stake your spark for the duration of the construction, and then when it's complete, you get it back. So it's a way for Uplanders to basically start creating items in the metaverse. And now with the introduction of cars, right, it's not just no longer building structures. We can now manufacture. So we're introducing, so we have a concept in Upland called meta ventures, and these are basically player-run businesses. So up until now, the only meta ventures have been basically NFT resellers. So you can set up a shop and kind of like resell your NFTs as a secondary market. But now, with introduction of cars and also items like outdoor decor items and structure ornaments, you'll be able to actually manufacture 3D items and manifest them on top of the map. And to do so, you need the Spark resource. So Spark is starting to get real, basically, demand for it, and we're kind of like slowly injecting it into the economy. You're gonna also be able to use Spark to charge your car. So because if you're going on a trip from San Francisco, like a cross-country cannonball from San Francisco to New York, for example, you're gonna have to stop along the way and charge your car. So either with your own Spark, or maybe somebody will provide you a service by giving you their Spark to charge your car along the way. So that's that. We have another future token called STEM, and this will be used to create life in Upland. So trees, animals, pets, stuff like that. A bit more into the future, but that's the Upland ecosystem, again, based on true ownership of not just your NFTs, but your resources that you use either to acquire them or to create them.
How do you democratize the tools and the headsets so everyone can create and not just having it in one?
Okay, the question is, how do you democratize the tools, the headsets, and so on, to Niels?
Yeah, so we started Holoride to become an open ecosystem for car manufacturers, creators, and also headsets. We're very fortunate to work with HTC Vive and have the first Holoride ready headset coming from them. Because they also follow a very open approach. And in terms of content creation, we have an Elastic SDK because the content we're enabling for it we call Elastic content. So you can download our Elastic SDK, it's a plugin to the Unity game engine, and can start building. So as a creator, you're maybe familiar with the Unity engine, it's still being used by like 50% of all indie developers out there. We love indies because they push the boundaries of what's possible, and you can download it and start creating. Initially, we do start publishing as Holoride because we need to make sure that it complies to all the standards that are necessary in the automotive space. But we work very closely with creators. So if you have some ideas and you want to come up with a Holoride, let us know and we'll figure it out. But you can already download our SDK and play around with it. And sooner or later, we'll open it up to more creators and not just indie studios. So everyone who wants to create with our tech should create with our tech. To this, but yeah, what I would love to see in 5 years' time that all of us jointly fill the still empty term metaverse with life, because currently it's not really tangible for most people, and there is no clear definition. Everybody has a different understanding, but that it definitely should incorporate many of the ideas around an open, very accessible way of having a spatial web, and which is heavily community driven. This is something I would like to see, and of course that most of you didn't waste time on their transit over here. Hopefully you came here by a Holoride and made your transit time count a little bit, had a fun ride. Yeah, but that's what I would love to see in 5 years' time once we see each other back on, hopefully still a physical stage, I have to say.
Matrix, are we in there or not? I don't know.
Yeah, so 5 years from now we're going to have the same panel. Hopefully we're going to meet you there. And obviously in Upland, Austin will be fully open, and every bungalow in the street is going to have their own bespoke experience in the Upland metaverse that complements the real life experience here. And then everybody in the audience are going to go out after the panel. They're going to put on a Holoride and go treasure hunting in Austin.
It's good. Yeah, so maybe, I think, looking forward for Metaverse, the opportunities, I think we have to see that, because when you look at Ready Player One or Matrix and all those movies, right, they're somehow always dystopian, right? There's one big company owning all and controlling us all, right? With the way we stand here, we really believe it's decentralized, it's controlled by the people. Hopefully this comes through, right? And I think there's so much more opportunity, positive things. Of course, you always have something which is not bad, right? But we clearly see, it will enrich everyone's life, especially, we live in hard times with pandemic and all that stuff, right? Which is also, creates also more opportunity for more, diverse approaches, inclusion and all that. So we're really, really optimistic about it. So would like to thank you, the panel here.